Who are you?
I'm the one who asks.
Come in. My name is Anatoly Shabalin K, and I'm an artist. I make sculptures, objects, and paintings. Sometimes I work with brands and musicians.
Oh wow! Did you work with A$AP Rocky?
Yes, I did. And sometimes you can see my works at the exhibitions.
Today we're diving into the mind of multidisciplinary artist Anatoly Shabalin K, a Russian artist who explores various mediums including plaster, 3D printed sculptures, graphic design, furniture, fashion, and painting. Through his many mediums, Shabalin has collaborated with such brands as Apple, Adobe, Nike, Puma, Kid Super, and Universal Music.
And I was thinking about the future world where our flats are getting smaller and smaller, so each object has to be very, very functional. And I thought, what if art that we have above our couch could transform into a piece of furniture, an extra stool or a table or a piece of clothing? So I created canvas that transforms into a piece of clothing.
Don't you think it's all moving in that direction though?
It is, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this collaboration that just happened. This was just an installation, which was almost like a collaborative destruction, but also a collaborative like creation. And there's like this famous like Picasso quote that's like, every act of creation begins with an act of destruction. Was that in your mind when you did this, or kind of what was going through your mind?
Well, destruction is one of the most important parts of my art because I create all the pieces and I always scratch them, I dent them with a hammer, and I really like to damage my art so it won't be precious anymore, and I wouldn't care of storing it or of losing it, of people interacting with it. And you can see it in every single piece. Like I would put some paint, marking, and destruction in a way is a way of being free. But yeah, today we made this project with a brand called Prêt-à-moi, a fantastic clothing brand, and we collaborated on a capsule collection. We made long sleeve hoodie and pants, and soon we're gonna release a bag. And basically all those pieces have very long sleeves, and when you buy it, it will arrive in a box with a custom set of scissors, and you're gonna cut it and adjust it to yourself. So basically, our idea is to make a canvas, and you're gonna make it work for you, for yourself. And today we made the exhibition. I made a couple of pieces. This one in particular called Fridge.
Yeah. I can see why.
Yes. I made a set of custom magnets with my typography, imagery, and people could assemble the painting all together. So it's kind of collaborative practice, and they could paint. And I was documenting how this canvas was changing every single day. So it's like dynamic artwork, and all the visitors are essentially collaborators in this piece.
That kind of like breaks the barrier of who is the artist, and you're also very much blurring the lines, being super multidisciplinary. What is your mentality behind that? Because I see your attention to detail with like everything from the hangers to sculptures to like fashion. Like, why this approach?
It's hard to explain it even to myself, but I guess the reason is originally I'm from Russia, a small town called Izhevsk, and I was studying in fine art school there, finished it, and it's a very Soviet-oriented education system that it's like academic drawing, painting, like all about rules. We had to study composition, color theory, and specific lines, specific patterns, and it was very focusing on the craft. We worked with ceramic, tapestry, this sort of stuff. And I got very technical, but then later I studied at Central St. Martin's, and I learned a lot about contemporary art, digital media, and I got to the point where I have all those skills, so I just want to use them all and create multi-dimensional pieces.
Yeah.
And especially now, because like we use ChatGPT so much, Midjourney, like I feel I need to fight this AI thing, and I need to create something tactile, something people can touch, experience, look at, physical, yes. And physical is very important for me. Like every time I design a cover or a poster, like we have a poster there, it's a physical sculptural piece. So I would take a picture of a sculpture that's gonna end up as a cover, not just designed in Photoshop.
Is there a reason, like, would you say it's because you're trying to like do some sort of world building as an artist, or what would you say that reason is? Yeah.
I think, I'm just the enemy of Mark Zuckerberg, who's trying to build multiverse, and I'm trying to build real life,
a real
world,
real reality.
And another enemy of mine is minimalism. I used to be a graphic designer, and I was passionate about minimalism. But then I realized, like Dieter Rams is amazing, the guy who made most of the projects.
Great philosophy, but I get your point where it like destroys the detail in everything.
At first, it was amazing as a contrast, like it was opposite to all those handcrafted pieces. But at the end, it actually ended up being so much cheaper than very crafted, complicated objects that everybody started making. Essentially white bricks, and that's a razor, that's a toothbrush, that's a computer, mouse, and everything is just a white brick. So I am on a path of building something very detailed with ornaments, like with attention to details.
Yeah, I can
even
see
though
that.
I use a lot of white as well. But
it's like almost a distressed white, which I enjoy.
Exactly.
And so how do you go from being this kid in Russia and finding your way to collaborate with artists like A$AP Rocky?
I really love what I do, and I always want to do it on a bigger scale. So I'm in a constant search of opportunities, and I would find people, contact them, suggest, like make a presentation and suggest an idea that we can make and work together. And I think, and I'm still doing it, and some of the things worked out, and some of the people came back. And in this case, director of his music video, Sultan Sirov, beautiful director from Kazakhstan. He contacted me to make a piece, and now I'm working with him again on a completely different project. But I don't know, it's like a snowball effect. The more you do, the more opportunities come, and
agreed. So now that you're at this point, what advice would you give to yourself, like being back in Russia as a kid, like based on the barriers you faced, based on what struggles you might have faced along the way? What advice would you give to your younger self?
That's a complicated thing to answer, because I think problem was that Izhevsk is a tiny city, and growing up there, I didn't have any artistic community. We don't even have, like, we have 3 galleries, that's it, and they are not contemporary.
Right.
Horrible. Maybe now they are better, I don't know what's going on there right now. But back then, they were exhibiting just, I don't know, fruits and cats with watercolor.
But wouldn't you say that's like a blessing in disguise in a way, because it allows you to find your like true expression? I don't know, at least that's how I found it for me. I'm from Monterrey, Mexico, which they're like the only art that's truly appreciated there is like, yes, like studio traditional art, but it's very specific type, and then architecture. But all the other mediums, like all these mediums that you're exploring, they're not necessarily appreciated.
Yes.
And so I guess for me, I ended up seeing it like in that light after so many years of being like, oh, this sucks type of thing.
Right.
But I don't know about your experience.
I think you need to have a thread, to unfold. And back in Izhevsk, I didn't have a clue that the whole art exists, because at the fine art, we were studying art until 19th century, just Russian art till the end of 19th century. And my teacher, I was like, what about now? Like, what artists do we have now? She's like, well, art is dead. Nobody's making great art anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I moved to London, and we started studying. I was studying graphic design, illustration, but they were teaching us everything based on art. And like the first week they started talking. There is a very famous artist, Ilya Kabakov, one of the most expensive in the world. Anatoly, why you not? Well, could you share it with us? And I'm like, who is it? I don't know. And they're like, it's Russian artist, the most successful Russian artist alive. You don't know him? No. And Eric Bulatov, like there are so many famous Russian artists out there in the world, and I didn't know about them. So I started unfolding it. And so it was hard, and I hated art. I thought art is boring, and I went to graphic design. So it's hard to give advice. I think I did everything right. I just kept exploring. But yeah.
So just keep going.
You need to have a hint about the direction you need to go.
Yeah,
in Izhevsk, it was hard to find a hint.
True. You seem to have an obsession with asking questions. What does this stem from?
I don't know. I guess, again, it's because I lived in Izhevsk, and I was eager to find all about design, art, and I had so many questions. And then when I moved to Bristol in the UK first, and Banksy, Inky, lots of graffiti artists are from Bristol. So out of nowhere, all those artists popped in my universe. So I was just constantly digging and asking people around, and like coming to the galleries and asking to tell me about the gallery, about their practice, about the artist. And I don't know, I ended up realizing that the question is the most important thing, because it allows you to grow. Yeah. And with art, I realized that it doesn't matter what meaning you put in it while developing it, what concept. What's important is the emotion that viewer gets while looking at it for the first time, without any description, and without any explanation. And if the viewer asks a question, himself or me, that's already thinking process that will lead him somewhere, and I think it's the most valuable thing ever. And also I realized my name is Anatoly Shabalin K, which comes together as ask, and I realized it's a sign for me to dive deep in that thing.
I love that you integrated that into your logo. Thank you. Putting yourself back in the shoes of like being a kid, what questions would you ask yourself if you could see yourself like today? Do you think?
Again, I didn't know how to reply on that, to be honest. Because I'm here just because I had this experience. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to change it, and I don't want to think of the past in terms of...
Right. Any questions for your future self? Like what's the future look like for you, for your work?
Honestly, I'm eager to find if I can build my career outside of social networks, because for now, all the opportunities came through Instagram. And sometimes I think, what if I'm going to be hacked and I will lose all the contacts, I will lose all the portfolio? Like, is there any value in the real world? Obviously, I have a skill, I have friends, but I want to kind of establish my offline presence, and this is one of the first steps that we're doing today. So I wonder, how I succeeded in the offline world.
Last two questions. I want to ask you about specifically this piece, the hanger, and then kind of the idea behind this almost chess piece. Like, what was your inspiration to do this with the hanger and take your own approach as well as a chess game to it?
Okay, so the hanger is actually an important piece of my practice, weirdly. Back during the COVID times, Latvian clothing brand ITK contacted me to create some project with them. And one of the things, like, I created sculptures, but then I also like, let's do clothing hangers. Like, everybody's interacting with them.
Yeah.
We can make art out of it. So we did this project and it became viral. Basically, it was one of those projects that boosted my career.
Okay.
And I'm very grateful to clothes hangers in that sense. So I'm trying to always find a new way of making them.
Yeah.
And with the bomber, with the jacket, I did a piece back in 2018, a poncho, which is a canvas as well. And I was thinking about the future world where our flats are getting smaller and smaller. So each object has to be very, very functional. And I thought, what if art that we have above our couch could transform into a piece of furniture, an extra stool or a table or a piece of clothing? So I created canvas that transforms into a piece of clothing.
Don't you think it's all moving in that direction though?
It is, yeah. And I'm a huge fan of, I'm following a few YouTube channels about small living, and I was obsessed with small flats, 40, 30 square meters. But then my wife told me once, like, isn't it weird that they're making it cool to live in a tiny space? It's not cool, like, it's a sacrifice. We shouldn't make it great. And this piece is also like thinking about the same that I did with a poncho, like making a piece that is both, it's a game, it's a piece of clothing, and it's an art. So everything at once.
No, but I think it's exciting to see design moving in this like direction. I think it's very exciting. Last question. What are some creatives or artists that you see right now that are emerging that you look to and you see like, okay, what they're doing is cool, you want to give them a shout out? We like to support emerging talents at Archive Dream. So yeah, any friends that you want to shout out?
It's a tricky question.
They can be friends or not. Like, they can be just someone you admire, you like their work.
Recently, I was reading an interview of an art critic, and he was saying something like, blah, 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 Tom Sachs, one of the emerging artists. And for me, Tom Sachs is my god, like he's huge. And I always thought of myself as an emerging artist. And then I realized in the art world, Tom Sachs is an emerging artist. Well, I don't know how good critic is, but at least it was his opinion. I don't know. I want to shout out Pertema clothing brand that helped me bring those art pieces to life. Because they financed production of all those projects, which is very valuable for me. And
it's rare. You don't find people like that are willing to like.
Exactly. And I worked with many clothing brands, and even with brands with much bigger budgets, but they don't necessarily care about art. They think about commercial side. With Pertema, yes, they're emerging clothing brand. They're just beginning their path, but they are very passionate about making art pieces and working with artists, which I really appreciate. So let's do shout out to.
Of course. I love how you were able to blend this, what I view as the art of clothing, into just normal art, if you will, like make it an actual performance in a way. I thought it was super interesting and not something you typically see out here. Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.